Hello, and welcome to another episode of the One World Countless Story podcast. Today is a solo episode with me. I like to call them Storytime with Selena. And this is really where I get the opportunity to just share some of my thoughts, some of the things that have happened to me, and really like big learning and insights that I've had that I feel like will also help other people. And so today we're talking about one of the biggest things that I've learned through therapy that have actually helped me so much. Now, before you skip and you run off of this episode and you're like, oh, therapy, no thanks, turn it off. I don't know if you're like that, but if you are, um, I think that this insight, you don't have to go to therapy to have insight from what I'm about to tell you. And just because I go to therapy doesn't mean that you have to go to therapy. I think therapy, counseling, whatever you want to talk about it, I think, or not however you want to talk about, whatever you want to call it, I think therapy is so important. But for me, I know I'm a verbal processor. I figure stuff out through talking, and so therapy is something that has been in my life for a long time and that has just like worked out really well for me. And so it's something that I absolutely love. I think is very beneficial. And I think it's nice sometimes to have somebody outside of your circle and group to be able to talk to and give your view and side on things. And so I am a big advocate of therapy and counseling, but this episode is not here for me to tell you that I think you should go. It's just one of the most impactful lessons that I've learned through therapy. And I think that it is something that is really, really big and really, really insightful. And I was having a conversation with a friend a while ago, and I was really reflecting on some of the things, like the big things that I took away from counseling. And just thinking about what were some of those big moments, those big things that really helped me. And so I'm going to give you a little background on my experience and my I guess, interactions with counseling and therapy, to kind of bring you up to speed with where I kind of was at. So when I was in grade 10, one of my teachers was like, hey, Selena, like, I think you should maybe get some counseling, get some help, because we see something in you and it's like a lot of drive, a lot of passion, but we just want to make sure that you're doing okay and that you don't, work yourself to the absolute last breath of whatever, just like work myself to death essentially. And so I was like, okay. And so a really cool thing at this high school that I went to, they had counseling services, and it was really like we got to sit with people who weren't officially counselors or therapists, but they were doing like their apprenticeship, so they were more like students. And we had a couple that were like official people as well. And so it was a really great opportunity for us to get some therapy counseling at a very low cost. And so that's kind of where my journey started in grade 10 with talking to people, going down there once in a while, just talking about like big things and topics. And I remember a lot of the time, my mindset was like, how do I eliminate these parts of myself that I think are bad? And since you're listening, I'm doing like the air quotation marks of like things that you think are bad, but like, they're not actually bad. They're just a part of who you are. And so I had lots of counseling from grade 10 to 12. 12, it kind of stopped because of COVID, and then I kind of stopped, and then I kind of got to a place in my life where I was like, okay, I think I need to go get like a therapist outside of school because I'm really struggling with this, and I want to move through it, move past it, and overcome some of the things that are blocking me right now. So I decided, I think probably like after a year of not talking to anyone or seeing anyone, I got a recommendation, saw someone new. And we jumped into a very specific thing that I wanted to tackle around what I experienced in high school. And if you don't know my full story, episode number 1, all the way back at the beginning of this episode, I told my story. And something that is important to know about me for this is that I was diagnosed at a young age with learning disabilities, and I got into a school that helped me with my learning and how I could actually learn. Once I got there, I turned into this like major perfectionist of like, how do I achieve 100? And I want nothing less than that. So I like to call it like a little monster was developed inside of me of like just achieving, producing, and I just didn't know how to take a break. So that's like a very quick overview of kind of like a little bit of my past. And so I had been putting labels on some of this stuff like perfectionist, anxiety, dyslexia, and a lot of these things through whatever it was, I just thought that they were bad and they needed to be eliminated, especially something like anxiety and perfectionism. Like there was something wrong with me if I felt this way. And so if there's something wrong with me, I need to eliminate it, get rid of it. And that was really my mindset of like, how do I eliminate these parts of me? These are bad parts of me. These are unwanted parts I need to eliminate. But when I started seeing this new counselor therapist, we really did something that we kind of call parts work. So there's different parts that we each have inside of us. So for me, we called it the trifecta, and there was parts of perfectionism and person pleasing and the fear of failure and all these different things. I forget what the exact trifecta was. But what we were able to do was to identify. And I think that's like the first part, is like identifying of these different parts of you. So there's, for me, there was anxiety, there was my learning disability, there was all these different parts of me. And when you identify them, you can kind of see the bigger picture of how they affect you in your everyday, how they come together, how some of them feed off of each other and can make things way worse than they actually are. And so the first step was kind of like identifying these different parts of me and these different things that existed in me. And right away, I'm like, okay, cool. So we've identified them. Now let's eliminate them. Let's get rid of those parts of me. But that was not what it was about. I've done a lot of work around embracing these parts of me. So I like to say, like, I had to learn how to not want to eliminate parts of me, but to embrace parts of me. And it's the same thing for you. It's about learning how to embrace certain parts about yourself instead of eliminating, thinking that they're bad, and absolutely like just getting rid of them. And so I think when I think back about like one of the major shifts and things that happened in my counseling would be exactly that. That shift of embracing the different parts of me and not feeling like they were bad and having to get rid of them. And it's really cool because I've gotten to this part in my life where I can really see something play out in my life and be like, oh, hi, there's anxiety. And I like to think, have you ever, guys, I'm sure you guys have seen it, but the movie Inside Out, if you haven't, I definitely recommend it. It is a kids movie, but I promise you, you will take away so much as an adult. But in this movie, Inside Out, they kind of have like these little emotions that are like little beings inside of their heads. And so there's like joy, there's sadness, there's disgust, there's fear. And so those are like emotions and things that like kind of run who you are, and they all collect these like core memories. It's a really amazing movie, but I kind of picture it like that there's all these different parts of you, and they all kind of like sit at this, in my head, it's like sit at this grand table. And I know this, like, I think this kind of sounds a little kooky, but also it's kind of just like, it's a way to visualize it for me. So that's the way that I speak about it, in a very visual way, because that's how I kind of understand it. So I kind of see this board table in my head, and we have all these different seats and all these different things that come up to the table. So whenever I'm faced with a decision, or whenever I'm faced with a test, or whenever I'm faced with a challenge, or whenever I'm faced with a good time, there's lots of these different things that have a play. And so I identified those things that are at the table, like anxiety, um, fear. What else was there? Yeah, like person pleasing. And by acknowledging all these things that were at the table, I could really analyze and be like, okay, so like, where's self love at? Anyone? Where's she at? Oh, she's like shoved down. She's not allowed to come to the meeting. Whatever it is for you. And so it was really this cool moment to then add. So it was about identifying, embracing, and then adding different things. So, I let self-love come have a greater seat at the table. I let curiosity come have a bigger seat at the table. So when something comes up in me, it's like the anxiety jumps on it and is like, whoa, let's take this and run with it. And then curiosity is like, wait, hold on a minute. is that actually what we want to do? And so it's this really cool way for me to like and visualize it and implement this different way of thinking of identify, embrace, and then add new things into your life and things that are a part of you and let them have a louder voice at the table. And let me tell you, this is very difficult work. If you've done it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is a lot of mental work. And some days throughout my journey, in my life in general, some days I'm so exhausted. I've done nothing but think, but I'm so mentally exhausted that it made me physically exhausted that I just like had been working with all of these different parts of me and letting them have a seat at the table or quieting someone they need to be quieted and letting one speak up a little bit more. And it's really, really cool. And it's been very beneficial for me in my anxiety journey. The most, I think it's helped in a lot of different areas, but I think in the most like the most it's been my anxiety, because and person pleasing too, I can start asking like, why did this bother me so much, and be like, oh, there's my person pleaser coming up and being like, well, this one person doesn't like you. That's the end of the world to the person pleaser. But then actually having, a little bit of a balance in there and be like, no, like it's maybe that's not what it's all about. And I feel like when you open up that dialogue with yourself, your thoughts, things that are coming in and out of your brain, because we have like thousands of thoughts. I want to say we have like 70,000 thoughts a day. And we are like, I think that's so cool. Like, I don't know what the statistics is, so don't quote me on that, but it is crazy. Like, we have 50,000, 70,000 thoughts a day. And that's a lot when we really think about it. And some of those thoughts aren't even our own. Some of these thoughts are things that came from our phone, from our parents, from our siblings, from our spouses, from our kids. And we can just let those thoughts my leaves keep falling down in my little studio. But we can, let's get back to it. Sorry. We those thoughts we can really let determine our behavior and attitude. And so when you can bring in that mindfulness and that awareness of these different types of thoughts and realizing like, where is this thought coming from, and realizing that there's parts of you that are either triggered or that it affects a little bit more than others, that come up when something happens, when something's said, it comes up. And it's just about having that open dialogue with yourself and having that conversation with your anxiety and figuring out, where am I being affected most by this? And it's just really this beautiful, that I speak about it now. It's kind of coming together of this like awareness with mindfulness. And it's not easy to do right away. But if you're like listening to me right now and you're like, oh, like this is making a lot of sense. Like I can identify some of these things inside of me, like the pleaser, like the anxiety or test anxiety or depression. I can see these different parts of me. What I recommend, and because I'm such a visual person, I just absolutely love this, is drawing some circles on a piece of paper and plopping in some of those things and just describing, what they are in you, what happens in you around them. And just really, this is kind of like an action step, a really like something to do today, of just write down some of these things. And there's going to be lots of different parts of you that keep developing and new things that come into your world. And so just write down some things that are already existing there and just be aware of them. I think that's the first step. You don't always need to take action to get the result. Sometimes it's a lot about just being aware. And so being aware is just thinking about like, okay, yeah, so this shows up for me, perfectionism shows up for me. What does this look like? And then once you can really get that identification with that awareness done, then you can really start to put it into real life and just start being aware, being mindful of yourself, and looking at, why did this bug me so much? And oh, is this my anxiety? Is this my person pleaser? What's happening? And it's just beautiful. And the moral of the story, oh, sorry, no, sorry. And so along with that, also draw some bubbles that, add some color into this as well. I love visual colors and everything. Add some things, my things that had to take a bigger seat in the table were like self-love, self-compassion, grace, curiosity, like I said. So some of these other things that you kind of want to have take a seat at the table, pick a color for them. For me, I either think yellow or bright pink. These are some of those really rich things that you need in your life that will balance out maybe some of those more negative, overwhelming, I think is the better word than negative, overwhelming emotions that you have. And just start to be aware, start to identify, start writing down these things that you want. And then when you get a real life example, start practicing some of those things. So it's like, okay, so here we are right away. It's very hard to stop yourself in a moment of anxiety, but being like, whoa, here we are. We're anxious. Okay. And then being like, okay, what do I need in this moment? Do I need some grace? Do I need some trust? Do I need some motivation? What do I need from myself? I think it's really easy to just go, 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 and not pause and really analyze how we feel. And really, like, we're responsible for how we feel. And so, asking yourself, like, what do I need from me right now is actually a really big and important question to be asking yourself, because it's really a like a pause moment when you can get to that pause and ask yourself, you're really overwhelmed, you're really stressed, you have a million things to do. Pause, take that pause and be like, okay, what do I need right now? Is it a walk? Is it a coffee? Is it a to-do list? What is it for you? Figure out what that is. Pause, take a moment, and ask yourself, what do I need right now? Do I need a nap? Do I need a minute to cry? And honor it. Honor yourself. Honor what you need. And really take the initiative to be that person for yourself, to love and embrace yourself, and remember that it's normal to feel all these crazy different emotions, but that you can love yourself and be gracious with yourself. And I'm in this journey of really figuring out how to continue implementing and listening to what do I need right now. Today I had so many podcast interviews and things that I wanted to record, and then so many things that I needed to get done. And I was like, hold on a minute. Let's just take a minute. What do I need right now? Okay, I need some lunch. I need to go for a walk. I need to take the dog for a walk. And then I'll just get started with one thing at a time. Okay, I'm going to start with this client's work, and then we'll get into everything else. And so it's really about being that person for yourself. And again, like I said, it takes a lot of work. And I really quickly want to just throw in a little disclaimer. I'm not a therapist. I don't have a degree in anything. I am just sharing from personal experience what has worked for me, what has helped me, and just sharing some of those insights. And so this may be something that you implement and it absolutely works and it is amazing for you. And this could be something that you try to implement and it doesn't work as well for you. And that's okay, because we're all figuring out what works best for you. And I've done a lot of internal work, and I get my credibility through practicing and working through some of this, but I'm not like a registered licensed therapist, a psychologist, any of that. I just get really interested in these little topics and things that I find that help me. And so if they can help you in any way, I want to pass that forward to you. So, to kind of just like wrap this episode up, you have an action step of identifying those things in you and adding some new seats to the table, and just starting to be more mindful in your day and asking yourself, how can I show up for me? What do I need right now? And honor it. Because when you ask yourself what you need, and if you don't honor it, it can lead to like a decrease in my experience, a decrease into that self-worth and a decrease in self-confidence. I think a really big way into continue to build your self-confidence is to honor the things that you say you're going to do. And so if you're going to tell yourself that we're going to go for a walk, you need to honor it and go for that walk and do it, because it will just be a continual growth of your own self-confidence, your own self-awareness, and your mindfulness. All together, they all kind of have this beautiful play into each other. So yeah, really just the moral of the message of just embrace who you are, embrace the parts of you, embrace the procrastinator, embrace the part of you that wants to take 10 hours for a task, embrace the perfectionist, embrace all those parts of yourself that you've been told that are bad or that you want to eliminate, because you're never going to change anything by hating yourself or by eliminating things. Change occurs when you embrace and become aware and are mindful and take action. In my experience, that's what I find, because I know from personal experience, I tried to change. I did my best to change by hating myself, by saying I need to eliminate it, and nothing changed. But when I started to embrace, accept, honor myself, so many things changed. So many things shifted inside of me that was just so beautiful. So today, I challenge you to just love yourself a little extra, to really figure out what are the parts of me that are there, and start having that internal dialogue with yourself and be like, "Ayo, procrastination, what you doing today? Why you doing this to me today? Why don't you want me to get my work done?" And really start treating it like it's an object. It's something that you can have a conversation with and move through the conversation with those different parts of you. And just a reminder that you're doing amazing. You have already come so far, and I think that you're here listening to this podcast. There's definitely a reason why you clicked on this podcast. And so I just wanted you to know that you're doing amazing and that I'm rooting for you. And yeah, I just think that you're doing so amazing. So thank you so much for joining today's episode. I love sharing this little story with you today. And don't forget that if this episode helped you in any way, or you think that it could help someone, send it to people, share it on your Instagram story, share it on your Facebook account, share it anywhere you want, leave a comment. All those little things help for growth. And don't forget that this episode also comes out on YouTube. Check that out in the link below. And One World Countless Story has an official Instagram page, so make sure you go follow it for lots of motivation, behind the scenes, and just really inspiring clips from all the episodes. So we will see you guys on the next episode. We have an amazing next guest. Her name is Alana Bender. She is one of my elementary friends. She's very inspiring. She went through a life-altering event that was very traumatic for her. She shares her journey through that and her entrepreneurship journey and all the amazing things that she's getting up to now. So you do not want to miss the next episode, because it is filled with so much goodness, so much authenticity, and just brilliance in a lot of ways. All right, we'll see you. Bye for now.